right, welcome back to the Knights of Dissent show. I am Jon.
And I'm R.A.T.S.
And today we have a very special episode for you because we're going to be talking about psychological preparation. So, R.A.T.S, how's your psychology doing? How's your psyche?
I'm ready for anything.
You ready for anything? Yeah.
Someone could tanks could roll down the street and blow someone up, and I would just
Completely
I don't know.
impassive.
I'd make an ironic joke about it.
You'd rake it, yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So, I don't know if anyone noticed, but some stuff happened since we did the last episode. A couple things happened. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
What things? What things, Jon?
A number of events happened in the past 2 weeks. While your computer was broken.
Yeah, my computer exploded.
Yeah, I know.
The Wi-Fi. Actually, I want to tell this story. The Wi-Fi adapter, I thought it broke, but it just turned itself off. And I bought a Wi-Fi dongle you can plug into a laptop with a USB.
Yeah.
And the second I plugged it in, it turned the Wi-Fi adapter back on. So I just instantly returned the dongle, and my computer was fixed for free.
Oh, based. Enormously
Notable
based.
R.A.T.S W.
Total R.A.T.S W.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I put it on Telegram. I had to tell the fans, all 3 Telegram subscribers,
all 3 federal agents who are keeping track of this channel.
Agents. Okay, yeah, but it wasn't bad. I put out a Substack article this week, and then I put out one last week, which will probably be on Old Glory Club next week.
We're rising. We're rising up through the ranks.
Yeah, we're rising up
through
the
ranks.
But anyway, today I'm here to tell you about psychological preparation for traumatic events. And if we have time, I'll be going into physical preparation for traumatic events. Because the world's getting really traumatic. I don't know if you've noticed, but you just look outside and it's wow, it's pretty bad out there. Now, full disclosure, I'm not Green Beret, Tim Kennedy. I never tortured people in Iraq with a soldering iron and nail clippers.
I wasn't at Abu Ghraib, so
no,
I can't describe any of that stuff. So I don't know.
I can't tell you how to be combat focused, guerrillionaire, grind set, get a Jocko Willink. I'm not that guy. Okay, I can't help you with that. But what I can give you is some practical advice and some practical tips on how to deal with ordinary real world problems. So, yeah, basically that. Because I had a job where I had to deal with emergencies occasionally, and I found that some of these tips really helped. So I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
Well, I didn't have a job in anything really like that. I worked in an outdoor space with heavy machinery and stuff, so that could have led to a serious accident. But most of my traumatic scenario psychological preparation came from the Boy Scouts, and this is a mild dox, I guess, out of the millions of children who are in Boy Scouts. That includes me, and the Boy Scouts has kind of been recently subverted, which kind of sucks. But when I was in it, I had a really good scoutmaster, and he kind of gave me a lot of advice, and he really nailed it into my skull on these things, and it was extremely effective. And the one time I've had to use it, it just happened. I didn't even have to think about it. I just instantly did it and got the situation resolved. And I was kind of shocked by how effective it was. But we'll talk about that later. I'll tell you the story about that.
No, go ahead. You can do it now.
Okay. Well, I was at a Subway. I was at a Walmart Subway. Okay.
The combination Walmart Subway.
I needed some slop.
Okay.
And this old man, he looked like a nice old man. He fell backwards and hit his head against the rack of chips, and the chips went everywhere. There were chips all over the Subway. The rack was on its side, and he was laying on the ground, and his head was bleeding. I don't think he cracked his skull or anything, but he was probably 80 years old, and yeah, he had an injury, and everyone in the room froze, and then 2 seconds after it happened, I like look at an employee and I say like, call 911. Like, and that's like classic Boy Scout training
It's good
because
training. It's good training
yeah,
to have.
you got to break the frozen state and like break someone else's frozen state, and you have to tell them to call 911. You shouldn't just say like someone call 911. You should
Yeah,
point at
good
someone and
advice.
say call 911 now, and
Good
that's what I did.
advice. So
And
that's actually the first thing I wanted to talk about. You talked about you mentioned the first thing I wanted to talk about, which is freezing up.
yeah,
So
yeah,
everyone, you don't really realize this until you get into a emergency situation, but everyone tends to freeze up.
yep, yeah.
There was a video recently out of Canada where a Sikh gentleman decided to go sicko mode on a diner. A gentleman who was dining. Apparently, I heard it was like a dispute over someone vaping in public. I'm not sure. All I know is that someone ended up getting disemboweled, and a bunch of people just stood around. Now, part of that is it's Canada, and they were just too polite to do anything. But part of that is psychological response to trauma, right? People are seeing something traumatic happen in front of them, and their immediate response is, I can't believe this is happening. I'm just going to freeze up. So, realistically, you're going to freeze up the first time something bad happens. You're not going to know what to do. And you're probably going to freeze up the 10th time that something happens. But being aware that that is going to happen and knowing to snap yourself out of that right away is something that you have to just do. There's no magic pill to make it happen. Okay, for example, first time I ever responded to an emergency was an elderly woman having a stroke. Okay?
Yeah.
Literally, the second it happened, I forgot everything I'd been trained to do for like 4 seconds. And I just had to consciously snap myself out of it and respond appropriately. Now, fortunately, there were other more trained people there that helped me out with that, and I was able to. She turned out, she was okay. It wasn't serious. Someone drove her to the hospital, and she did okay. But you got to consciously do that. So even like more recently, right? I was in a public event, and a girl randomly fainted and fell over. And I like froze up for 3 seconds. I was like, whoa, I can't believe this is happening. Like she just fell over.
Yeah.
And I've seen plenty of accidents, plenty of times people have been hurt. And even now it's something not even that serious and I still freeze up. And I'm sure like first responders, people who've been in the military will say that. Like even if you're used to seeing it, something unexpected happens, you will freeze up. And there's really...
Yeah, I mean,
it's a force of will thing. You just have to snap yourself out of it and be the first one to respond.
Yeah, I mean, you just made me remember another one. A couple years back, when I was in my hometown during summer, I was at the gym. I was just, I was using reasonable amounts of weight. Being smart, and then like this high school kid walked in, and. I thought, maybe he's jacked. Maybe he's like the Chad quarterback of the football team because he throws like 2 plates and oh man, voice crack. He throws 2 plates and like a 25 on each side. That's benching, what is that, 275? I'm thinking, man, he's pretty strong. And he gives it a go and his left arm just like snaps like bad. And like, everyone in the gym, like half the people didn't even notice, and the other half that did notice just stood and like froze. So I like ran over immediately, and I picked the weight up off him, and I basically did the same thing. I pointed at one of the employees and said, "Call 911," and then I talked with the kid and tried to keep him calm, and tried to say like, "Hey man, you hurt yourself. But it's okay, it's just your arm, you'll get medical treatment." And like it was, I don't know what happened, dude, but like he couldn't move his left arm from the elbow down, so that's not good. But there was blood and shit. But yeah, my training activated at that moment as well. And I'm like really happy. Like this is gonna sound insane, but like I'm really happy that happened because now, like with both those experiences, like I can feel like I can trust myself to deal with stuff like that.
That's definitely a good thing. I would say so with any kind of emergency, right, where you're frozen up because you've just realized something bad is happening and your brain just really can't even comprehend that it's happening.
Yeah.
You have to make a decision. Obviously, there's going to be a fight or flight response if you're in immediate danger. But when you're not in exactly immediate danger and you're frozen up, you've got to think, is this something where I have to run in or something I have to run away? Okay? And if it's a case where you're in danger, 9 times out of 10, the best option is just to tell your body to run away. Right? If someone is getting stabbed, right? There's a fight breaking out. Most of the time, it's better for you just to run away and not engage.
Yeah.
But if that's not an option, right? Let's say your 3-year-old is getting abducted, or someone's having a heart attack in front of you. That's a case where you have to deliberately tell your body, I got to run into the situation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
really, whenever you freeze up, you got to tell your body either A, I got to run out because I'm in danger, or B, I got to run in because I got to help. That's really, it's really that simple. Those are really the 2 options you have.
Yep.
And you got to evaluate each situation, size up the scene, do a real fast size up of what's going on, and tell your body, I'm going to either run away or I'm going to run in. So you mentioned the other thing, which is pointing at people and never assuming that someone else is going to help. Even if there is someone else more trained than you, they will demonstrate that by pushing you out of the way and taking control of the scene.
Yeah. Exactly.
Never assume that there is someone else more trained than you in a situation. Never assume that someone else has already called the police or someone else has called 911. Right? It is your job as the first person responding to the scene, or even as the 10th person responding to a scene, to make sure that has happened. So if you are in a restaurant, say, and a baby starts choking on a grape, happens a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Young mothers feed their babies grapes and they start to choke on them. Your first job immediately is to point at someone close by, look them in the eye, point at them with your finger outstretched and say, call 911. A baby is choking.
Yeah, exactly.
Funny thing, when I was doing first aid training at a class I did once, there was this big problem where people, for some reason, will yell, call the police, when they really mean to say, call 911.
Yeah.
Don't say that. Say call 911. Everyone knows what that means. Do not say call the police, because what will happen is that the other person will just autopilot through calling and ask for the police. I'm not joking. That happens more than you think. Point at someone and say call 911. X is happening. Or just say call 911 and all 3 paramedics, fire, and police will show up, and the situation will be resolved by someone.
Yeah.
It's better just to have all 3 show up than the wrong people show up. Okay? So never assume that someone else has already taken care of it. Your job, you point at someone, immediately say call 911. As soon as you've made the decision to either run in or run out, if you can't call, you make sure you point at someone else and make sure that they know that they have to call. Point. Make a deliberate physical action of pointing. Pointing is very important because you're not only, it's almost accusatory. You're putting responsibility on that person. You also consciously raise your voice when you point at you unconsciously raise your voice when you point at someone. So, in an emergency, you might not actually be yelling as loud as you think you are. It might sound like you're yelling really loud to you, but you're actually not yelling that loudly, and everyone else is yelling and screaming. But when you point at someone, you're actually raising your voice towards them unconsciously, which is very helpful. So we've talked about, so depending on whether or not the scene is safe or not, either run in or run out.
Yeah, this is like the first step.
Step 2.
Exactly.
make sure, like, don't assume that you're underqualified. Don't assume that someone else has called 911. Call 911 yourself, or make sure to affirmatively point at someone and make sure that they call 911 by saying, "Hey, you, call 911," while pointing at them. So that's step 2. Now, step 3 is going to be allow your training to kick in, and that really depends on what training you have. There are various classes that you can take. I would recommend that every single person, period, no matter what if you're over the age of about 14, I think you can take both of these classes if you're over 14. You should take Red Cross CPR, Red Cross AED, and Red Cross Emergency Oxygen. They are 3 very easy classes. You can take them as a bundle. If you're not getting like a lifeguard certification, I think it's only 2 days for all 3 certifications. You can call up your local school, your local police department, your local fire department. There are all kinds of public services that are paid tax money to put on these classes. You don't even necessarily have to pay for them. A lot of them are either cheap or given out at a discount with tax money. So there's no reason why you should not invest the time in Red Cross CPR, Red Cross AED, and Red Cross Emergency Oxygen. Emergency Oxygen isn't as important if you're not a professional rescuer.
Is that like with an oxygen tank?
Yeah, it's how to use an oxygen tank, which is actually, you'd be surprised how many times you'll use one if it's around. You'll use it a lot more than an AED, especially if you're working around elderly people.
And an AED, that's like the heart.
Yeah, automatic external defibrillator. They're available at most buildings. Problem is, most people don't know how to use them. And there are instructions on them, but they really aren't that helpful. And if you don't know, if you've never practiced on a dummy with one before, it's really easy to mess stuff up. So you want to know what you're doing if you're using an AED. Obviously, if there's an AED available, someone has a cardiac emergency, go ahead and get the AED out and try to follow the instructions, even if you don't have the training, because the AED will not just like electrocute someone unless it can tell that their heart is stopped. The AEDs are very intelligent, which is why they're extremely expensive pieces of equipment. They're not just car batteries with a button on them. They're actually very sophisticated pieces of equipment that analyze heart rhythm. They can be used on like pregnant women and babies, and like the computer inside it is very smart and will probably be able to figure out whether or not you actually need to push the button, and it will tell you. It has this speaker inside of it, and it will yell at you what you need to do.
The machine will yell at you.
Yes, it will yell at you,
Very
like 80 IQ Americanoid instructions on how to save someone.
You're like in the heart of Atlanta, and like a 300-pound magic American just consumed one too many chicken bones. You got to use the AED, and it'll yell at you.
Well, actually, there you have to do. It's not called the Heimlich maneuver anymore.
Well, no, they're not choking. They like.
Oh, yeah, they're hard stuff.
Fat in their blood that it's finally caught up to them.
Oh yeah, cardiac emergency. So yeah, look around on the internet, see if you can find Red Cross CPR, Red Cross AED, and Red Cross Emergency Oxygen near you. There's no reason why you shouldn't take them. If you have a kid, like a baby, they'll tell you how to resuscitate a baby. Once you have that certification, I would carry like a pocket mask around to resuscitate people, because, oh boy, are people dirty today. People have a lot of saliva and bloodborne infections that you do not want to get on your skin or in your mouth. Do not try to resuscitate someone with your mouth. It's very dirty, disgusting. People have hepatitis. People have all kinds of unknown diseases. Use a pocket mask always, unless it's someone in your immediate family that you know very well.
Is this like a face mask?
Yeah, it's like a face mask. Okay, it's that thing. They're actually the same ones that they use on those bag valves in like medical shows where they like into someone's mouth. It's the mask that goes over the nose and mouth that seals.
Oh, okay.
It's
Yeah,
called
I
a
see.
pocket mask. It comes in this little like plastic clamshell. I have one. I can show it to you sometime.
Yeah, I can see it on Google right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
very useful. They're very cheap. You can go buy them. They come with like an elastic band. Just cut that off. Like you don't need it. Cut
Yeah.
the stupid elastic band off. That's only
For
if
the
you're.
audience, it kind of looks like in a movie when like the bags fall from an airplane top and
Yeah,
it's
yeah, it's like
crashing. It
that.
looks just like that.
Yeah, yeah. And if you take the class, you'll know how to use them. And it's a great piece of equipment to carry around. They're not that expensive. I don't know. Are they like $15 or something at most?
You can
Like,
get like 10 of them for like $50.
yeah, they're super cheap.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's training that's going to kick in an emergency. Make sure you get that training. The next level of training I would want everyone to have is Stop the Bleed. Now, Stop the Bleed is a national class. They're given all over the place. It's for traumatic hemorrhaging. Traumatic hemorrhaging is stuff like gunshot wounds, car accidents, stabbings,
Magical injuries.
magical injuries. Exactly.
Yeah.
So Stop the Bleed is a very, very useful class. I don't know who created the program. I think it was the American College of Surgeons who originally created it. It'll teach you how to use more advanced equipment, things like cat tourniquets, pressure bandages, hemostatics, which are also available to the public. Once you get a Stop the Bleed certification, it's not like a Red Cross certification. It's not for professional rescuers. It's like a civilian certificate. It's not like binding. It doesn't expire. It's just a plaque you get.
Yeah.
It's just like a little
Yeah.
piece of paper that says you took the class. Once you take the class, you can start carrying an IFAK. An IFAK, Individual First Aid Kit, is a common set of equipment that people carry to stop traumatic hemorrhaging. It includes usually a tourniquet, such as a cat tourniquet or a soft T, a pressure bandage with a proper fulcrum on it to apply pressure.
Okay, yeah.
A sheet, usually like 5 or so yards of hemostatic gauze, gloves, sometimes a chest seal, a set of chest seals for sucking chest wounds, a set of trauma shears for cutting open clothing, and possibly a decompression needle. Now, some Stop the Bleed classes won't teach you how to use a decompression needle because it is by far the most dangerous piece of equipment you can carry of everything we've discussed. Trying to deflate and then reinflate someone's lung is very dangerous and should probably be avoided. Generally, sealing someone's chest with a chest seal is sufficient before EMS shows up. When EMS shows up, they can stab a decompression needle through your seal and do it their way, which is they're probably better at it than you are. So don't carry around a decompression needle unless you know how to use it. Last thing would be a nasopharyngeal airway, which is like this like green rubber tube that you stick down someone's nose so that if you have to leave them, they won't asphyxiate on their own blood.
Okay, yeah.
Again, that's for trauma. If you'd had to leave someone, if there's like a shooting or something, you're not going to be doing CPR on people. You're not going to resuscitate people in combat medicine. So people who are out and about during the day are going to be closer to EMTs. They're going to be using both philosophies, both combat medicine and resuscitation, which are two actually somewhat conflicting schools of thought. But you're going to, with the classes I've mentioned, CPR, AED, emergency oxygen, Stop the Bleed, you'll be learning two somewhat different philosophies, but they'll be useful in a whole wide range of situations, and you'll be able to adapt them to what's at hand. So for instance, if there's like a shooting, but the shooter is neutralized very quickly and there's no longer a threat, you can try resuscitating people, right? But if there's a shooting and there's still an active shooter in progress, you slap a tourniquet on someone and you'll probably have to drag them out or run away. You cannot sit around resuscitating people.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
having the know-how to do resuscitation, to do CPR, to administer an AED if someone's heart is stopped, you can do that. You can apply both schools of thought depending on the situation. So that's the training aspect.
Okay. I just want to ask
CPR,
you.
AED, emergency oxygen, stop the bleed are for solid classes. You're probably not going to pay more than a few $100s for all the certifications.
Mm-hmm.
It's great if you have the Red Cross certification, CPR, AED, and emergency oxygen. There are actually a lot of jobs that are open to you if you ever need to make extra money, like lifeguarding.
Okay,
A
yeah.
lot of places in that, like for senior care, require those certifications, and may even pay for you to get them if you don't have them already, and they need you to work for them. So
So,
it's very useful skills to have.
so just on the IFAC, so I Googled it. I'm looking at shopping. I see $40 IFACs. I see $250 IFACs.
Yeah.
What are
Okay.
we talking in price range?
So-
what's the minimum price for these?
Do not, I repeat, do not buy an IFAC that is pre-built unless you are very familiar with all of the equipment and know exactly the chain of custody for it, because there is an enormous quantity of fake medical equipment out there, and it's very dangerous because if a tourniquet windlass snaps when you put it on, you will bleed to death.
Yeah.
You will bleed out in
the-
30 seconds. If you have an aortal hemorrhage, you will bleed out in about 30 seconds and die.
So let's explain. So the tourniquet piece you're talking about, that's what you twist.
That is
to
what the
apply
thing you
proper
twist
pressure,
in
right?
order to apply pressure on
Yeah.
on an arterial hemorrhage.
And if that snaps, there's no way to apply proper pressure. And that
No,
person's
you
gonna
because
die.
by the time you've applied it, you will be so weak that you will not probably be able to apply it again.
Yeah. So okay. So
yes.
would you just say like you shouldn't even buy these things on the internet in general? You should
I would say
be up close and
here
personal with it?
are the two places that I would say you should ever purchase this equipment unless you are super familiar with where it's coming from. One is from a Stop the Bleed instructor, because they usually have a certification that they have to uphold, and selling bum equipment is a great way for them to lose their certification.
Okay. Okay.
Number two is from the North American Rescue online store. North American Rescue is the company that makes a lot of this equipment. Buy it directly from NAR. It's called North American. I think it's NorthAmericanRescue.com. Hold on. Let me check this. Yeah, it's narescue.com. That is the direct manufacturer of a lot of this equipment. They are the ones.
You can put this in the.
Yeah, it's going to be linked in the description. narescue.com is the manufacturer of a lot of this equipment. They are an extremely reliable source. They are well known. All of their equipment has lot numbers and serial numbers, so you can, if there's ever a malfunction, you can trace it back to the lot number. Do not buy pre-built IFACs from Amazon. Do not buy them from eBay. Do not buy them from a gun store. Do not buy anything from a gun store ever. Never buy medical equipment for a gun store, because 9 times out of 10 I found out that it's fake.
Okay,
You would be surprised how many gun store boomers will sell you fake tourniquets. It's shocking. It's gross. They buy it on like AliExpress, and they spawn it off to stupid people who think that they're saving a few bucks. Okay, look, a cat tourniquet is like $31. I promise you, when you need it, you will be so happy that you have it and that you have a good one. Do not die because you were too cheap to buy directly from the supplier.
So a quality one versus a fake one, is it the plastic type or the quality of the plastic?
The stitching, the plastic used, it's all manner of things. You never want to buy anything fake here, because a lot of these companies, like companies like North American Rescue, sell directly to the U.S. military. They have U.S. military contracts. They have a reputation to uphold. They QC every single lot. They're very, very, very careful with manufacture.
Okay.
And they have a serial number on them. If it fails, you know exactly where it came from. Don't buy fake tourniquets. Don't buy any kind of fake medical.
I asked this question.
Do not buy pre-built IFAKs on Amazon. There are a bunch of them. Some of them might have real equipment in them. A lot of them don't. Don't buy that. Also, another thing, make sure that when you buy equipment from a reputable source like North American Rescue or your Stop the Bleed trainer, make sure that it's not training equipment. So there will be tourniquets that are blue that are made for training purposes. The point is that you can use them over and over again as training tools. They're always colored blue, I think. Same, there's like cheap gauze that's used for training purposes that are sold by the same manufacturers. It will say that it's training, but if you just look at it and you're not paying attention, you'll be like, huh, this is cheaper. I guess I'll buy that. No, don't buy that. That's for training purposes. Make sure you're buying the stuff that you're supposed to be using in the field. It should be clearly labeled. Reputable suppliers usually label their stuff. A good IFAK should cost you at least $150.
Okay.
Another thing, you want to buy bandages. You want to buy proper pressure bandages that actually have like a fulcrum on there that applies pressure, which is like a piece of plastic. There are a couple designs like the Israeli bandage and the H bandage that actually apply pressure. These are different than dressings, like trauma dressings. Trauma dressings have a place, but they're a waste of space in an IFAK. You want bandages. You do not want dressings. Dressings do not have a fulcrum applying pressure. It's just a tight piece of fabric.
Well, I looked up what you're saying. So it's kind of like a bandage, but then it has like a plastic half moon fulcrum of some sort. So what can you do with that? Like
that is the part that goes over the wound that applies pressure. It's a lot of pressure too. If you apply it correctly, it's a lot of pressure. Again, I'm not going to... This is not a substitute for a Stop the Bleed class. I'm intentionally being somewhat vague because I want people to go take the class from a reputable instructor and buy the equipment from a reputable supplier.
Yeah.
So that's the training angle, like as far as like equipment goes, as far as certifications go. Have the training before you buy the equipment. The equipment is no good to you if you don't know how to use it. Just get the training first. A lot of times the equipment is for sale at the training sessions. You and I are going to one tomorrow. Again, I'm going to go re-up my certification.
Somewhere in the West, me and John are going to go to a training session.
Yep, for Stop the Bleed. I've been to one before, but you have not. So it's going to be a good opportunity.
My Boy Scout training is like 8 years ago, so I definitely need an update.
Yeah. So very useful stuff to have. So we've talked about training. There's also mental training. Now, this is the part...
Are we gonna talk about the videos? Is that what we're gonna talk about?
So this is gonna be a very controversial aspect of what we're gonna talk about today. But you gotta be psychologically prepared for what bad things look like. Because bad things look bad. Just a spoiler alert, they look bad. They don't look like they look on TV. So I'm trying to...
games or TV, it looks ridiculous.
Yep.
When you see the real thing, and the closest thing I've seen is probably a broken arm that's like bleeding, and that was gross. It was shocking and sickening.
If you watch a lot of Law and Order, sorry, pal, you don't really have a view of a proper view of what bad things look like.
I've also seen my own kneecap dislocated, and that was gross. It's disgusting because it's like it's not supposed to be like that.
So to avoid getting kicked off YouTube, I'm just gonna I'm gonna use very euphemistic terms here. People getting pew-pewed looks way different in real life.
Because in a video game, when you pew someone, they have a nice animation of them falling over. In real life, they just ragdoll because their brain isn't working anymore.
And what's even worse is once they ragdoll for a minute or so, their body actually starts to move into what's called decorate posturing, where they curl up or do weird things with their hands because the pew has caused things to happen in their brain, which is now shutting down. So just to be aware if that's a thing that happens. People that get slashed up, so to speak, does not look like it does in a movie. People spray lots of liquids all over the place. Huge
I will
mess.
say like the only realistic movie I could recommend is like the first 10 minutes of Saving Private Ryan.
Yep,
And
that's a
like
pretty accurate
I know
depiction.
I know that movie's kind of like in the movement it's kind of made fun of because of the director and the themes, but the first 10 minutes of that movie is realistic. If you want to see what real stuff looks like, watch the D-Day landing footage in that movie.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty realistic depiction. But just to put it nicely, bad things don't look like they look in movies or on TV generally.
Yeah.
Which means that you have to be, if you're going to respond effectively and without completely losing your sanity, you're going to have to know what those things look like. Now,
Yeah.
if you're an EMT, this is pretty easy. An EMT I knew when I worked at a previous job where I rescued people, he was like, I think 16 when he went on his first like ride along when he was in training, and it was to a decapitation. So
Yeah, that would that's like
yep. So
baptism
that's
of fire.
if
That's
you're an
insane.
EMT, that's great training. You're probably gonna have issues. EMTs are incredibly dark, unhappy people because of all the bad things they see. So, but they can be impassive under stress, and they can look at bad things without freaking out. Most people who
Yeah.
aren't EMTs probably not looking at that kind of stuff every day. Even people who are in the military probably don't see quite as much of that kind of stuff on a day-to-day basis unless they were in a place like Fallujah.
Yeah,
And of like the insane ways that people find for doing themselves various kinds of harm. Like even in the military, you probably don't see like the variety of strange and horrible things.
yeah, yeah.
So you have to be kind of psychologically prepared. Now, this is very controversial, but one of
Yeah,
the
let's
ways
just
you can do that is by finding footage of these things and kind of getting familiar with what these look like.
Yeah. But
Now,
you're gonna
don't
wanna you're gonna ease yourself into this.
yeah, so go watch some donut operator videos or police body cam footage
Yeah, that's
to
like
get
level
familiar with it.
the first thing I want to say is like that's the easiest thing to get your hands on. It's also the tamest, and realistically, like if you're in a violent world, that's most of the time that's the worst thing you're going to see. Is
Yeah.
someone get pew down and leaving this realm. Like
Yep,
that's the
that's
worst
the
thing.
thing that you're going to probably see eventually. So you should have like a decent idea about what that looks like in real life.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that footage out there. Kind of ease yourself into it, and also like kind of vary it a little bit. Like not spice it up. Spice it up sounds so morbid, but like kind of vary the
Yeah,
kind
it
of
does feel
material that
messed
you're
up.
consuming, just so that you have a kind of different idea of the different kinds of things that can happen.
Yeah.
So that you can respond to these things in a cool-headed sort of way, and you don't freak out because you've never seen something like this before.
I mean, like if I saw someone get shot, like I would still freak out a bit, but like I'm not gonna like.
Oh yeah,
have
you'll
panic
still be
attacks.
freaked out for a bit, but
Like,
it's like whether or not it's going to scar you forever. I'm serious.
exactly.
Like there's some of these things are very traumatic. They can cause serious harm to you psychologically if you're not prepared for them. But
Yeah.
if you sort of seen something like this 10 to 15 times before, you're at least kind of prepared for it.
Yeah, and one thing I want to say, the good way to ease into this is kind of start with like justified stuff. Like I'm sure you've seen the footage of the guy in the courtroom who's like pretending to be on the phone. And,
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Gary Plochet. He was actually
Yeah.
at an airport. He was at an airport, and
Okay, yeah.
the guy he
Well-
pew-pewed was going to court for a crime against children. His
yeah,
child.
and he got pew-pewed in the head, and the footage is very interesting.
Yep.
But like something like that is a good start because the guy who got pew-pewed deserved it, and it's just kind of classic justice. The guy who shot him didn't even get prison time. I don't.
Nope,
think, for
he
that.
did not. Yeah, Gary
So-
Plochet got off.
So yeah, so start with something like that, and then maybe slowly start moving towards worse and worse stuff, and then eventually you're gonna have to move to like bad guys winning, which always kind of sucks. But seeing stuff like because in the bad world we're running into, you're going to see a bad guy win on occasion. So seeing that on top of it is not a bad idea.
Yeah, and it helps you be familiar with what happens, because it if it can cut down a second on your freeze up time, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Because there are times where you're going to have to run away, and you're going to have to know, oh no, that guy is getting shanked. I have to run now.
Yeah, like you see like footage of Brazil, which is kind of what the West is turning into, and you see, a guy walks into a store with a gun and opens fire, and if you see that happen a bunch of times, and it happens in real life, those extra few seconds of you not freezing could easily, you could run out the back door.
Easily save your life. Save your life. So that's my controversial take, is that you should consume certain media in order to prepare yourself. Yeah. I don't really see an objection to that. Like, obviously, if you're like a child, first of all, why are you watching this boring adult show?
18, like go
play Fortnite. Go play Minecraft.
But obviously, if you're young, you shouldn't do that. But don't make this into like a weird thing. Like, don't watch it like for 6 hours a day.
No,
like that's gonna make you into a weirdo. And maybe like don't watch like a guy falling under a tank. Let's just say, like, don't watch that video. Don't watch the famous cartel chainsaw video. Like, I haven't even seen that, luckily. But you don't need to watch stuff like that to prepare for the world, in my opinion. That's just like shock gore, and like, maybe don't watch that stuff.
Right. But you should watch Donut Operator and the uncensored body camera footage. Very informative stuff.
Yeah, you should see, what happens if someone pews someone else 15 times with a 9mm. What actually happens? Sometimes the guy just falls over instantly. Sometimes he's paralyzed and he's like laying on the ground, like screaming,
Sometimes he doesn't stop until you have to like reload. Like, I'm serious. Like, there's some footage out there where it's like, whoa, some people are very resilient.
I saw a video of a guy get shot like 8 times, or pewed 8 times, and he kept going, and it took another few pews before he finally fell over. Now, realistically, that guy was probably going to die anyways, but adrenaline is a magical thing. Let's just say that, and sometimes people can run off of that for a while.
Yeah. Also meth. That's also a powerful.
Meth is like an upgrade. Like...
We were talking about meth on the Telegram chat the other day. We were having a little meth. I gotta be straight with you. I'm with the Christopher Sandbach on the stimulants question. I'm pro stimmies. Where do you stand on that?
Well, like meth.
Well, not meth. Just like in general, like getting stemmed up. Like, I think stimmies are pro-social, reactionary substances that should be promoted.
Like, are you talking like Adderall, or like
stuff? It's in general.
Powder. Like, what are we talking about?
Like in general, like any, productive, like modafinil or Adderall or caffeine pills.
If you can. If it's going to make you more productive, yeah, I mean, fine. But, it's definitely a slippery slope. And if you're honest about it, especially for like something like tren or steroids, I don't have any problem. Like, if a pro bodybuilder is like, yeah, I'm taking this shit. Like, I don't care, because I know he's still going to the gym 5 times a week and eating pretty clean and stuff. Like,
I'm different on that. I'm pro stims, but I'm anti-steroids. I think.
Well, I would never take steroids personally, because it's gonna negatively affect your body. But if someone chooses to take steroids to really get that massive frame for whatever they want to use it for, I'm not gonna like decry them personally.
Yeah. Okay. That's reasonable.
I would never do it. I don't want my balls to be the size of a raisin. Okay. Like.
Well, Arnie, like, have you seen Arnie? He like Arnie became like weird and squirrely in his
Yeah,
in the
Arnold.
later
Yeah,
years, and like
he's
you see
old,
that with a
dude.
lot
He's
of these
old.
like bodybuilder guys. Like you run on artificial testosterone for like 30 years, and then start becoming like really like girly because your body doesn't actually know how to make its own hormones anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so
yeah. But yeah, I mean, whatever on that stimulant stuff. Just, you know, don't be a retard about it.
yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else
So
you
that's
want to talk about on
basically
this
like
topic?
actually top four tips. So number one, you're gonna freeze up, make the conscious decision, run away, run in. Okay, based on how you
Yeah.
size up the scene, run away, run in. Make that decision.
Yep.
Number two, don't assume that you're overqualified. Don't assume that there's someone else there who's already called 911. If you can't call 911, point at someone, say, call 911. Hey, you, call 911 right now. Point at them
Yeah,
deliberately and raise your voice so that they know. Make affirmative eye contact so that you know that they heard you. So number three, have skills, have training, and allow that training to kick in. It
Yep.
will automatically. Your training will kick in. The training, as long as you've practiced it, will kick in. As far as training for the layman, I recommend Red Cross CPR, Red Cross AED, Red Cross Emergency Oxygen, and Stop the Bleed as four solid courses that'll give you great skills to save lives in the real world. It's not the same as being like an EMT, but it's pretty damn useful if you are in an emergency. You can respond to car accidents, you can respond to active shooters, all kinds of stuff in the real world that emergency responders might not be there, but you are. Number four, psychologically prepare yourself for bad things. Know what bad things look like in real life as opposed to movies and TV. Just be familiar with that kind of material. Know what happens when people get switched off. Know what it looks like when people get pew-pewed. It'll help you a lot.
Yeah.
It'll help you realize that something bad is happening. It'll help you realize how badly hurt someone is. It'll tell you to get out of Dodge if there's danger.
Yeah. Another thing I would add is you should go to a pew-pew range and shoot a pew-pew, and then for one pew-pew bullet, take off your hearing protection to actually know how loud pew-pews are. Because
Also, just to know what they sound like.
yeah, movies make you think pew-pews are quiet, but they're not. A 9mm pew-pew is extremely loud. It'll make your ears ring if you're shooting it without hearing protection. And if you're like 50 feet away from the shooter, it's going to be very, very loud. So I'd recommend going to a pew-pew zone and knowing what that sounds like and knowing how loud it actually is.
Yeah, because you can tell the difference between fireworks and pew-pew.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's actually, there's a difference, but like people who've not been around them can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
But very useful skill to have.
Are we going to talk about like pew-pew carrying?
I don't have enough experience with that
The only
to
thing
give
I'll say about
advice.
that, I'd like to do an episode on that at some point, but here I just want to say, like, if you're gonna carry, carry responsibly. Don't like have it hanging out of the back of your pants like a magic person.
Have a Kydex holster.
And you need to understand that where you live is extremely important in how the government will respond to you using that pew-pew. If you're in Oklahoma or Montana or Iowa or something and you use a pew-pew, chances are they're going to find it justified. Obviously if you like do something ridiculous, you're going to go to jail. But like if it was clearly in self-defense or for a good reason, you'll be fine. But if you're in Washington or Chicago or New York City, if you're in New York City, like you'll just go to prison. And you really need to understand that like where you are in America is extremely important for if you're going to carry a pew-pew. But
yeah, that's true.
And also you have a lot of responsibility with the pew-pew. So yeah, we should make another episode. I want to make an episode on pew-pews. I don't know if YouTube would tolerate it.
You can talk about it. You just can't show them.
Oh, I can't show my crate of 300 AR-15s in my apartment. It's over.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Also,
yeah. So,
a final thing on that note. This is not like. Actually, this is kind of a big one. I can tell that you're carrying a pew pew if you're wearing 511 tactical gear.
I need to Google this.
If
What the
you
heck is that?
have a Glock sticker on the back of your truck, I'm gonna go out on a limb and think that you're carrying a firearm. So
Yeah.
maybe if you're trying to be like not a target, don't wear stuff or put stuff on your vehicle that makes criminals want to steal from you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Do
You
not
want to
have a
be
giant, especially if it's like an expensive gun sticker like BCM or Sig Sauer on your like truck window. That makes people think, huh, I bet there's a really expensive firearm in that truck. I'm going to steal it. Don't do
yeah.
that. Keep the sticker on your like water bottle, or just don't use it at all and be a super tactical elite gray man going
Yeah.
undercover. Do
Like,
not
what do you think? Do you
advertise
think
that.
like do you think carrying is even worth it if you can't do it concealed?
Yeah, absolutely. There are places where you can do it open, and it's a good idea because you
Well, I
can
mean,
draw it out
obviously,
faster, and it's a great
like hiking
deterrent.
and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, like
but
if you're hiking out alone and open carry is allowed, absolutely. Or if you're in a
yeah,
state that
yeah,
allows it, and your boss says that you can, and you work a high risk job, like if you're at a convenience store, you work at a convenience store or a place that gets robbed a lot.
yeah,
Definitely,
yeah,
yeah, open carrying is a great deterrent, but
yeah,
it just
yeah.
depends on where you live and what you're allowed to
But
do
like,
there.
I guess okay, I get what you're trying to say. You're trying to say don't flaunt that you're doing it, and if you're
Not
gonna,
like with your attitude, but with your like apparel and with your car. Like it's very obvious that you're. It's just not a good idea because like thieves will see that stuff and they'll follow you home.
yeah, yeah,
And they'll wait till you're not home and they'll steal from your house because guns are expensive and criminals
yeah.
like
I
to
mean, if
steal
they can
them.
get a gun that cannot be traced to them in any direct way, they're
Yeah,
gonna take the time to get that. So yeah, that's a really good point. That's a
yeah.
really good
Don't
point.
put gun stickers in your car. Don't wear gun shirts or
Oh
511
man.
tactical pants. Look, okay, to be fair, if I saw a guy wearing like Cry Precision in the real world, that guy's probably in a NATO death squad. Okay, I'm not gonna mess with that guy.
Hey.
I'm not gonna break into that guy's house. If there's a guy with like a Hesco sticker, probably not gonna break into his house. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So what would you 511 tactical gear in the images or godlike? Like all these operators, they're Black Rifle Coffee companies.
oh yeah, and that's another one. Black Rifle Coffee Company. I'm probably gonna break. Yeah, if someone's gonna steal from you.
Didn't like okay, Black Rifle, they literally like gave money to the Democratic Party, right?
Yeah, it's a
They-
grift. It's a total like fake
yeah.
like op.
Like I don't who falls for this stuff, dude? But yeah. So anyways, yeah, I just kind of want to talk about that. I think we're going to do an episode on that at some point. We'll try to keep it YouTube friendly. But I mean, everything in this video has been pretty good. I think pretty tolerable for YouTube. And yeah, I don't have
Yeah.
anything else to add.
Yeah, I don't have anything else either. Just be careful out there. Follow our four pieces of advice. When
We're
you
not
freeze
liable
up,
for anything we said here.
yeah, exactly. One, you're gonna freeze up. Make a deliberate decision to run away or run in. Number two, don't assume that someone else has already called 911. You make sure that someone else has by pointing at them and yelling "call 911" while you point at them.
Yeah, and
Number three, allow your training to kick in and make sure you have good training and proper equipment. Number four, be psychologically prepared and desensitize yourself to bad things.
one thing I'd add is never think you're a badass. Always have no qualms about running away. Okay, like don't be a stupid hero. Okay, because you could easily throw your life away. I've seen videos of magical people like robbing someone, and then a guy pulls a gun on them, and the magic person like picks up their or aims their pistol in the magic way they do, and they hit him right in the head. So like, you know, the world is chaotic and random, and you have no idea what can happen. So Don't, like, after a few classes, if you're concealed carrying a pew, if you have medical training, don't think you're a god. Yeah, that's the last thing I want to add.
All right, this seems reasonable. Anything else?
Uh,
Oh yeah,
Children,
go to the Substack. Go
yeah, go
follow
to Substack.
go follow to the Substack. Eventually, I'll probably I'll let people pay pig on the Substack. They
Oh
can send
man,
me.
I'm gonna
Oh
get
yeah,
that.
another thing.
Yeah.
I started putting crypto dono addresses in the description, so you can send us e-shekels.
Did we get some
Days.
crypto yet?
No, I don't think so.
What's the split here? Like audience, I don't know about any of this. I think he's gonna take all the money.
Yeah, I'll zero crypto bucks that we've gotten. Hold on, did I put it in the last video? I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, I put it in. Yeah, we got our bitcoins. You can send us bitcoins, litecoins, and Monero coins. So.
The best thing you can do for this channel is just share these videos around. If you got a buddy who you feel like should be, getting more serious about the realities of the world and get this training, send them this video and say, like, this is a good introduction to this world. So yeah, share this video, like it, comment
Like
down
and
below.
Comment, like, and subscribe.
Yeah. But yeah, okay.
If you've ever written a Substack, go ahead, hit that subscribe button.
Oh man, we're back.
Okay, this has been the Knights of Dissent show. I'm John.
I'm R.A.T.S.
Thanks for watching.
Bye bye.